The smell of burnt ozone was thick in the server room. And that's when I realized the blood on my hands wasn't from the man I just pinned to the floor. It was mine. My name is Mark Sullivan. 10 minutes ago, I was CEO of a $50 million empire. Now, I'm staring at a screen that says, I just robbed myself. The server logs show my own fingerprints, my own retina scan, and my own admin keys tearing the company apart from the inside. In exactly 55 minutes, I'm supposed to sign the merger of a lifetime. Instead, the SEC is in the lobby. My bank accounts are being wiped to zero, and the lawyer I've trusted for a decade just stopped answering my calls. Someone didn't just hack my servers. They stole my life and replaced it with a prison sentence. If I don't find the ghost in the machine before the clock hits noon, I lose my daughter, my freedom, and the truth. Let me take you back to where this began. The server room hummed with a mechanical roar, a sterile gale that carried the scent of scorched silicon and ozone. Mark Sullivan's fingers danced across the mechanical keyboard, each click echoing like a gunshot against the glass partitions. On the monitor, crimson progress bars surged toward 80%, swallowing the Nexus Grid core data in a relentless siphon. He wiped a bead of sweat from his upper lip, his eyes stinging from the blue glare of the terminal. His thumb instinctively sought the jagged piece of circuit board in his pocket, rubbing the sharp edge until the skin felt raw. It was a rhythmic, desperate movement, scritch, scritch, the only thing keeping him tethered as the digital world dissolved into chaos. Through the transparent wall of the boardroom, David Sterling loomed like a trapped predator. David's silk tie hung limp, his frantic pacing tracing a jagged path across the plush carpet. He slammed a fist into the mahogany table, his mouth moving in a silent, desperate tirade that Mark ignored. To David, this was a loss of capital. To Mark, it was a failure of architecture. The corporate empire flickered in the lines of scrolling green code, a structure Mark had built with the precision of a watchmaker, now being dismantled by an unseen thief. Mark gritted his teeth as a secondary barrier snapped shut, locking his access. The system refused to recognize him, like a locked door with the wrong key. He forced his mind to slow down, to treat the crisis like a logic puzzle, even as his heart hammered a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The heavy pressurized door hissed open with a rush of cold air. Sarah Johnson stood in the frame, her chest heaving as she gripped a ruggedized flash drive. Her pigtails. No, her hair was pulled back so tightly it looked painful, a sharp contrast to the chaotic energy of the room. Her knuckles showed white against the silver casing of the drive. She didn't look at the monitors. She looked at the symmetry of the cables on the floor, her eyes darting with a familiar, restless intensity. "Mark, get out of the root directory," she gasped, lunging toward the secondary terminal. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the mechanical whine of the cooling fans. "I have the origin signatures. I tracked the leak to the source." The breach hit 85%. The air in the room felt thick, charged with the static of 1,000 humming processors. Mark shifted his weight, his chair creaking under the tension. "We need a clean bypass, Sarah. If I drop the partition now, the whole grid collapses. It'll be like pulling the foundation out from under a skyscraper." She jammed the drive into the port, the metallic snick sounding final. "Then let it collapse. We save the data or we lose everything. There is no middle ground in a landslide, Mark." As Sarah worked, the shadows in the hallway shifted. A man in a matte black tactical vest, his face obscured by a mask, stepped into the light. Michael Davis didn't move with the grace of an assassin. He moved with the slumped, heavy posture of a man carrying a heavy cross. He let out a deep, rattling sigh that vibrated through the server racks. It was the sound of a man who hated his job, but felt he deserved no better. He didn't say a word, but the way he blocked the exit made the air feel even thinner. Sarah didn't notice him yet. She was focused on the spreadsheet of data scrolling across her screen, her fingers flying as she categorized the incoming threats. Mark, however, felt the shift in the room. He saw the masked man reach for a heavy metal bar. Without thinking, Mark lunged. He didn't use a tactical strike. He used the weight of a heavy rack-mount server he had been preparing for maintenance. With a grunt of effort, he shoved the steel unit off the bench. It crashed into the contractor, pinning him against the vibrating cooling units. The man let out one last, exhausted sigh before his eyes rolled back.